And a good Monday afternoon to you, Roger Hill of Weathering Heights. This weather video is driven by 802cars.com. They represent 802 Toyota, Twin Cities, Subaru, and 802 Honda, all located off of exit 7 on Interstate 89. We're going to start with the big picture here first, and we have this sort of pesky air mass here that's very warm, hot, and humid. It's interacting with conditionally unstable conditions across the hilltop, the higher terrain of our mountains especially, and they basically cause the first cycle of convection, and these are in progress right now, and they're all shifting a little bit to the east of the main ridge line. All of these occurring across the eastern portions of Vermont. There's really nothing going on currently across western portions. The overall thunderstorm activity is generally on the weak side. These are fairly pulse-like, fairly short. There's a tiny bit better wind shear today, but really nothing major, and so I'm not anticipating anything widespread in terms of impacts for utilities. However, there could be a wet microburst or two that causes wind gusts greater than 40 miles per hour. Right now, it doesn't look like it's going to be very widespread, but we are seeing quite a few thunderstorms that have developed since really late this morning and through this early afternoon. A sub-alert will be issued and continuing into about the early to mid-evening, probably about 6:30 or 7 o'clock. Is that sub-alert. Right now, for the rest of the outlook, this is the big picture. We have kind of a trough of lower pressure that's, you can see the 500 hectopascal thicknesses, and this is the sort of tan lines here, the brown lines, depicting that. So this is the trough of lower pressure that pretty much is swinging through a good portion of the country. A cutoff low that continues to sort of spin around, and then we also have this overall kind of heat ridge that is the sort of on its last gaps right now. And what's going to end up happening is we're going to continue with the warm and humid air right into Wednesday before this weather system begins to push in associated trough. And then that is going to sweep in another surface low, which is then going to curl up into the Great Lakes and sit and spin somewhere north of the Great Lakes. And eventually we'll get into much better conditions, much drier conditions later in the week. Let's take a look at some of the latest computer modeling. Okay, this is a little bit earlier from today, and what we're looking at here is not a lot of precipitation. You can kind of indicate just the first hints on the White Mountains, and then that kind of spreads and develops along that sort of southern central Green Mountain spine and into the Northeast Kingdom. The sort of secondary ridges and whatnot have developed some thunderstorm activity widely scattered in fashion, and most of these are just benign. They're just produce heavy rainfall and at the same time some bursts of intense lightning. And this is into this early evening. Then we don't have anything to worry about in here in terms of precipitation until about 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. Maybe a little bit earlier than that, roughly about the noon hour. Southern Vermont kicks things off a little bit again. It looks like some energy. This is a little bit of a different setup than what we've been seeing with these very slow-moving storms. This is a little bit better forcing conditions during the day tomorrow, Tuesday, with about 20 to 25 knots of shear. And so these will be moving in from southwest to northeast just a little bit faster, perhaps organized just a slight bit better in terms of these thunderstorms. Now, they basically fall apart once we get into the early evening, as that has been the case. And then what ends up happening, we have a better shot here on Wednesday. And this is out ahead of that kind of a frontal system that'll push on through. And this is the way it's set up. You can see even some locally heavy rain in some parts of north central Vermont and the Northeast Kingdom. How about that? And finally. But this moves on out. We get much drier and better conditions. For Thursday, it's looking really good. We get into Friday. It does look like dew point temperatures will be way down, so I'm not really anticipating any kind of storms refiring. There could be some isolated stuff up to the north and west of us over toward New York State. But right now, it doesn't look like this is going to be a problem. And taking a little bit more into the day on Friday, we can see that we kind of move things on out. A little bit more unsettled, perhaps a little bit more in cloud cover during the afternoon on Friday, but not bad. Now, we also get into Saturday. Here comes a potent weather system. This is almost like an Alberta Clipper system. And this moves on through, and this suggests some pretty good rainfall associated with some strong thunderstorm activity. Again, this is valid late in the day. It looks like basically later in the afternoon on Saturday and into Saturday evening, and then that kind of whips on out. And this is now beyond the period. It looks like we do dry out on Sunday, and then continuing relatively dry weather into Tuesday of next week. Canadian and GFS ensemble looks like this. Just a daily diet of showers and thunderstorms. Not a lot of agreement with the European on drying us out later in the week. And then in terms of total QPF, if you use the blue line, which I think is the most reasonable, you notice that there is this drier period where the ensembles have been trying to indicate some daily precipitation. Let's overlay capes. Capes are the strongest in this hot and humid air mass, and then they kind of come down a considerable bit. And then looking at 2-meter dew point temperatures, you can kind of see that once we get into Wednesday, it's a pretty good fall, and sets the stage for a lot lower dew points. So capes are going to be low, precipitation makers are going to be a lot lower, so that's why I'm not buying the Canadian GFS ensemble indications of more convection later in the week. And this is a little bit of a mess here, but the most precipitation you can see is going to be back into the Great Lakes, the Ohio River Valley, back into New York State. Least amounts in the eastern parts of New England, and then another secondary kind of deal here going on. There's this cutoff low that's sitting out, and we'll talk about the tropics here in a second. 2-meter temperature looks like this. You can see a bit of a cool off, a cool down, and then kind of leveling out. And this is the weighted MOS temperatures during the maximum temperatures during the daytime, and we're running about 3 degrees above normal. Now, 3 days later, the weighted temperatures actually go up as we warm up as we head towards Saturday, and that's the reason why. So, a little bit warmer, but don't let this fool you. Overall, the trends are a lot cooler than what we're currently seeing right now. Current anomalies across the planet kind of give you the rundown here. Notice just this is a continuation and has not really changed. Some parts of northern Canada is a little bit different, but is starting to hold on as well. Same thing with Greenland. This is our current heat wave, and these, of course, are anomalies. So this is excessively warm in Finland and parts of Sweden. Fairly warm in the northeast U.S. as well as adjacent eastern Canada. A little bit of a cool down off to the west. That's what's going to be working in later in the week, but it's going to be pretty slow. And then we have a little bit of a cooler situation in Alaska. That's all going to be changing up as well. And in terms of tropical cyclones, this is an upper level low that is just kind of spinning around. And this upper level low has got some pretty good thunderstorms. But it is sitting over a little bit of the sort of north headwall of the Gulf Stream. And the net effect of that is that we'll just have to continue to keep a good watch on this. But this location here for tropical storm, tropical cyclone formation is not the best. And the current situation right now with thunderstorms, we've had some along the ridge lines that have now moved off to the east. This is the most active ongoing storm here. Mostly just a lightning concern at this point. But you can see we've had a few of these already. This kind of an early start, and plenty of room for recycling now that we're just past the summer solstice. Roger Hill, Weathering Heights. Thanks for watching.